I shared my gladiator game with a couple of friends recently. Whenever you do this, you'll normally get some basic feedback like, looks cool, but you'll also get a bunch of random suggestions of things you should add. You should add lions.
It needs more blood.
Consider adding
Add a
pies.
shark that
Can you
eats
add
people.
chariots?
What about the Senate?
Have you seen Gladiator?
Boats with
Do
one
that.
level, a crafting mini game.
Some are good and some are, well, a little odd. But there was one idea that really stood out to me. That's actually a really good idea. I can't believe I didn't think of that. And stick around, we will get to it today, but before we start chopping my gladiator up into pieces, I had something else I really needed to sort out. Up until this point, I've been using this sort of generic floppy character I originally threw together just to test the game. It did its job, but now I knew I actually wanted to keep making this thing, I needed to figure out what the game was actually going to look like. So back into Blender, and I started redesigning the character, and eventually I ended up with this much chunkier little gladiator. And yeah, already I think it has a more eye-catching and unique visual style. Now, 3D modeling is actually one of my stronger skills when it comes to game development, but that also creates a bit of a problem because visually, I know I can take this model much further. I could give the character more detailed armor, properly texture everything, add more materials, and try to push the quality much further. But I'm also one person trying to finish an entire game, and game art can quickly get out of hand. For example, if you stick to my game's current design style, simple assets, small details, solid single colors, you can pump out 30 to 40 of these models in a working day. The second you say you want texture, you want details, you want different variations, that number of models plummets. All of a sudden, you need to UV every single asset, draw and paint every texture, maybe bake every map. It doesn't stop there. You need to export every texture, import every texture, drag and drop every texture onto every material, finally apply it to the character, and then maybe something doesn't work, so you have to go back several steps. It's just never ending. If you are one person working on a game, you really have to be careful. And it's hard because visually you know you can do better, but scope is just so hard to get right, and you can always come back when the game is finished and improve things. Anyway, what we're all here for, dismemberment. That actually feels like a wild thing to say out loud. Now at first, I was not sure I could do this with the current setup. The body, legs and arms were all just a single piece at this point. But it doesn't have to be. Back into Blender, chop the guy up into pieces, and just break the joint whenever he gets hit by something. I realize talking about this ends up sounding a little bit sadistic, but hey, buckle in, we're just getting started. Changing the model out was pretty easy, but getting the arms to fly off was slightly more challenging. Trying to get it to release a part of the rig from the skeleton had some unexpected outcomes. In the end, I just decided to cheat and hide bits of the model that get cut off and then just spawn a separate object where the arm was. As I watched this freshly cut limb fly off through the air, I suddenly had another idea. I mean, if we're going brutal, why have any half measures? So I get back into Blender for the third time and build some new weapons. And if the arms can come off, then why not the head? And now the head is a weapon. At some point, my partner looked over my shoulder during this insane rabbit hole, and when this is what she saw, she did look a little bit concerned. Until I simply explained I'm modeling a character's spine to be used as a handle to flog gladiators to death with a disembodied head. Anyway, so these new systems needed a few other things to work. We needed a limb health system to decide when a limb should come off, as well as a variable on a weapon to say if the weapon can actually cut the limb off or not. I did this because it felt wrong being able to punch a player's leg off, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe this could be funny in the future. Okay, with all that sorted, we now had two systems, limb health and stamina for getting knocked down. I went on another side quest here and added an effect for each body part when health gets lower. Since we have full control over the springiness of joints, I simply lowered the spring on any limbs that got damaged. This made them naturally weaker, but the body is one piece you can't cut off. So I made it so that low body health reduces the maximum stamina a player has to work with, making them easier to knock down. I also made stamina reduce every time you're knocked down, making it harder and harder for a player to get up each time. Finally, I added a way to deliver a finishing blow in the form of a headshot. But this kept happening a little bit too quickly for my liking. The head is a bit too easy to hit. So I made a helmet health bar that protects the head from damage. When the helmet's health drops low enough, it flies off, leaving the head vulnerable. This started actually feeling really nice. It created some funny gameplay moments and gave players interesting decisions to make. Do I risk getting hit in the head since I've lost my helmet? Or I've lost both my arms and legs, I should probably play for a draw. I think one thing that gets lost in game dev videos is just how long this stuff actually takes. You normally see someone explain a mechanic, show it broken, and then 30 seconds later it's working. Because obviously me changing the same number 40 times or stare at an error for 2 hours isn't particularly interesting. But I think it can sometimes give you a warped idea of how quickly you're supposed to be getting things done. So if you are making your own game and wondering why something that looks simple in a video has taken you 3 days or even 3 weeks to finish, don't worry, it probably took me ages as well. You're just watching many days compressed into 30 seconds. There's just loads of bug fixing, failed ideas, and general messing around in between the bits actually worth showing. Alright, the last thing I did this week was just make some changes to the jump. The character had this really upright jump that I hated. It just felt so robotic. So I made it so that when you jump, the root joint becomes looser, which allows the player to tumble and flip in the air. And that's all I got done this week. Next time, I'll show you how I went about building the first level for the game. If you have watched this far, I appreciate it. As always, I love hearing people's thoughts on the game. So if you have any ideas or any suggestions or even just questions, don't be afraid to let me know. All right, bye now.